For this week's project, I am drawing a seagull, but the big ideas that I want us to be exploring are using a collection of lines and shapes to make our image, focusing on straight lines, wavy lines, and things like that, as well as breaking down a complicated image like a bird into a collection of simple shapes. So I'm using like a semicircle for the body, a circle for the head to start, and then I go more detailed from there. The other thing that I'm going to want to see is sort of foreground and background, showing a little bit of near and far. So I've got a nice big bird that's a little bit more in the foreground, sitting on the dock, and then off in the distance in the background, things are going to look a little bit smaller because they're farther away. So I made my lighthouse relatively small compared to the bird. And I'm drawing small seagulls up in the sky off in the distance. And those, I'm not going to add details. I'm just making them as small, like silhouettes of birds. Because the farther away it is, the less details we can see on there. Now, after I've sketched everything in pencil, planned out my composition, and I like the way that it looks, I'm going to outline in Sharpie. Of course, during remote learning, you have your choice of materials. I'm using the Sharpie mainly because it shows up better on camera. It's easier for everyone to see. But I did want to make sure that from time to time I show that I also sketch things in pencil and plan in pencil. Now, to break up the water, I'm going to add a few wavy lines to show that texture. And I also am going to make some wavy and irregular lines on the dock to show like that wood grain pattern and that texture. So I'm paying attention to that as well. The lines help to add a little bit more to my work. After I've drawn everything, outlined it in Sharpie, I'm going to color with crayons. As I've said so many times, you have your choice of media, but as I'm coloring with crayons, I'm going to press a little harder in some areas, be a little bit more gentle in other areas, because that can also help to create a little bit of shading to make it look like there are some shadows in some areas, and make it look a little bit lighter and brighter in other areas. Now, one of the challenges that a lot of students face is how do I make the sky and the water stand out? If they're both blue on the page, then I need to create different shades of blue. And maybe I'm going to do that by mixing in different colors. Maybe I'm going to add purple into one. Maybe I'm going to press harder in one area to make it a bolder blue and be more gentle in another area. So it's a more sort of pale blue with more of the white of the paper showing through. And of course, you can also find like different shades of blue if you have one of those bigger crayon packs or things like that. Now, the specific details you put into work, of course, are up to you. You can find ways to put in your own ideas and your own interests. I've seen this picture. I don't need to see 100 more copies of it. But I do want you to focus on those big ideas, breaking it down into that collection of simpler shapes to make up the picture, and also using lines to add textures and things like that to make it a little bit more rich and more realistic. That adds a little bit of detail. And finally, make sure you're showing a little bit of near and far. I want to see something in the foreground and something else in the background.